Hey there, it's Pete with GCI Turf. Hope you're having a great day today. And one of my absolute favorite machines I own is an Aerovator. Now the Aerovator itself is not specific to any piece of equipment. They make them to go on the back of a tractor, like a 3-point hitch. You've seen my Ventrac Aerovator. I'm sure they make them to go on all different kinds of machines, and today I'm using one of my Grasshoppers, and they also make an attachment, an Aerovator that goes on the front of the tractor. Of course, the Aerovator company, I think they're called First Products. They're the actual maker, and I think they're the inventor of the Aerovator as well. And of course, they part out the head unit and all that, and then they send them to different companies like Ventrac and Grasshopper. And that's how those brands kind of incorporate the Aerovator into their lineup. So what is an Aerovator? Well, it's a solid tine device or unit or head unit that when it penetrates the ground, it's belt or PTO driven, and it vibrates. It shakes back and forth very violently, very aggressively. And what that does is that breaks up the ground. The area or the width of the Aerovator, all that ground gets broken up, and so as you're rolling, you're continuously breaking up ground wherever that head unit comes in contact with. Now it's a little bit different than a core aerator. A core plugger, aerator, whatever you want to call it, will go into the ground and remove a core of earth and leave it laying, okay? The Aerovator doesn't have cores. It simply penetrates the ground and shakes and vibrate, and shakes and vibrate, and shakes and vibrate. Of course, that's one of my favorite things about it, is it's a very neat machine. It doesn't make a mess, and you don't have cores of earth laying all over the yard when you get done. As with the Ventrac and the Grasshopper, the head unit is out front of you, so you can see everything that's going on. You're not constantly looking behind you on the tractor and that kind of thing. And there's nothing wrong with the Aerovator being on the back of the tractor. It all depends on, what you decide you want to buy for your company and how it fits with what you do. Obviously, if you already had a tractor and you want to get an Aerovator, it don't make sense to go buy something else with the Aerovator on it. Just buy the Aerovator and put it on the back of the tractor. But if you're starting from scratch and maybe you're in the market and you're trying to figure out, do I want a 3-point hitch Aerovator, or do I want the Grasshopper or Ventrac style where it's out front? My 2 cents, if it's worth anything to you, get the one that goes out front. Whether that be Grasshopper, Ventrac, or whatever, in my opinion, it's much, much easier to operate, and you can see everything that's going on. It's right there in front of you. You can really get in some really tight places. You can put that head unit almost wherever. As long as it'll fit within the dimensions of the Aerovator, you can pretty much put it there. When I'm getting up next to a fence, I can get right up next to a fence. Incredibly difficult to do that with a 3-point attachment. It glides up and down through ditches very, very easily. Obviously that's going to depend on the steepness of the ditch, but you can see right here in my neighbor's yard, it's not too bad. One of the huge advantages of an Aerovator is I'm able to put my seed down and my fertilizer first. And in this case, I went with the Spreader Elite as I'm overseeding my neighbor's yard. And I also wanted to use a good starter fertilizer, so I ran with the 15-22-10, the protein starter. I was using my little turf wear machine to put down my seed and my fertilizer, and that's another different video, but that's a super cool machine. It allows me to really fine tune how I spread, and I can drop that seed or that fertilizer, right on the edge. And again, the less messy you are in a job like this, the better off. Once I get my seed and my fertilizer down, I can jump on that Aerovator and go to town. I basically operate the machine just as if I were mowing, making straight passes, and then I'll go back and edge out everything. With the head unit being out front of you, you can really focus on one side or the other, and you can put that outside head unit right on the edge, and get super close to all your edges. And what happens is that head unit just kind of jiggles and vibrates that seed and fertilizer right down into the ground where it belongs. Now, could you go back and fertilize your seed after you aerate? Well, of course you could. It'd be no problem. You could do that as well. But after using Aerovators for years and years, I personally like it better to where I can start off with a clean yard with no holes or no nothing in it. I can put all my material down and then take the Aerovator and work it down into the ground. So putting your seed and fert down before or after, I don't think there's a right or a wrong way to do that. It's just whatever you prefer. Now the edges of the road, hard pan ground. It's really hard. If I were using a plugger on this edge, I would have to go over it multiple times. And you can see right here, all I do is drop the head unit, go forward a little bit and back drag it just a little bit, and that ground is broken up really, really well. Now, when do I not use the Aerovator? Well, when the ground is overly wet, okay? I would prefer to use a plugger, a core plugger then, simply because if the ground is super wet, when those tines go in the ground and start jiggling, all they're doing is waddling a hole out. And I'm not trying to compact the ground even more. I feel like that's counterproductive. So when the ground's right and it's just a little bit moist, and even if the ground's hard, you can still use the Aerovator because it'll break it up. But when it's a little bit moist like it is right now, it's absolutely perfect for an Aerovator. And what it does is it basically loosens the top 2 to 3 inches of ground up across the board. And ever since we started using those, especially when you get in a hard pan situation, we have seen our seed germination go up drastically. I can't even think of a third word to say. Incredibly. I don't know, you picked a word. But it has made an incredible difference in the amount of germination we get simply because we have the option to use an Aerovator, especially in hard pan ground where, you know, it would take a lot more work for a plugger to bust it up the way it needs to be. So this is my neighbor's yard. You know, I've been taking care of it all year this year, all the treatments, the applications, the mowing. I even watered it a little bit for him. But this will be my last year taking care of it. Felt like I've loved on him pretty good. So, you know, my other neighbor over here, we helped her out and loved on her a little bit and took that yard from, you know, just kind of being so-so, and we turned it into something that looked really, really good. And like I said, I've been helping him out for a little over a year now. But with the bluegrass renovation full swing, that'll be hopping like crazy next year. I'm gonna be really busy in my own yard, so I'm gonna give him the mowing back on that. I'll still do some applications over there and give me a chance to make some more videos and that kind of thing. You know, when Jesus summed up the commandments, he said, you know, love the Lord your God first. And then he also said, love your neighbor just like you love yourself. So obviously as a believer, I want to do that out of obedience and encourage you as a believer to do the same. And even if you're not a believer, you know, it's really important in today's culture where it's so divided and so, you know, hate-filled and, you know, talking junk about, you know, this group of folks and this group of folks. It's really important to love people. And so whether you're a believer or not, I don't care if you're a flat-out atheist, I want to encourage you to work on loving people, you know, especially maybe your neighbor. If they're elderly, go out over there and help them. You know, if they're young, go over there and help them. Offer something to them. You know, you don't have to actually give them money. You can offer your time and maybe help them do something inside the house, outside the house, wash their car, whatever. I just think it's really important as a country, as a culture, as a world, that we actually invest a little bit into our neighbors and love them. Say, that's my challenge to you today. I've loved on this neighbor, and I'm not done. I'll be loving on other neighbors too. You might not see it on camera, but I believe it's something that we should be doing. And the neighbor doesn't actually mean the person that lives beside you. It may be somebody you meet on the street. It may be the guy you work with. It may be your buddy that you ride to work with. Whatever the case may be, I think you know the point I'm making, right? You know, you'd be surprised at what that'll do for people when you show them that you genuinely care, and you don't just talk it, but you walk it, and you get out there. You really can make a difference, I'm telling you. So as always, I appreciate you taking time out of your day to watch this video. I'll check you later.